All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to explore what is honestly the ultimate thought experiment. I want you to just take a second and imagine a world where the fundamental human drive to wonder has, well, it's simply finished. A reality where every single thing you could possibly ever ask has already been officially asked, fully answered, and neatly filed away. I mean, on paper it sounds like this amazing dream of perfect knowledge, right? But as we're about to see, arriving at the literal end of all questions might just be the start of a profound existential crisis. Okay, let's dive into this. The source text we're digging into today introduces us to a genuinely mesmerizing sci-fi premise. It's centered around this place called the city of Lemnos, and Lemnos isn't just your average metropolis. It is a city built entirely on the principle of exhaustion. It's a place where the unknown has been completely, 100% conquered. But what exactly happens to a society when the thrill of inquiry is completely tapped out? To really understand that, we need to take a look at the actual architecture of the society.
Section 1. The City of Answers.
So in this incredibly methodical, kind of sterile world, we meet our protagonist. Her name is Sami Voss. She is a philosopher, or, well, actually, scratch that, she used to be. Sami was a curator at something called the Institute of Final Inquiry. And 3 years before our story even begins, her institute actually dissolved itself. Why? Because its grand mission was finally complete, resulting in this staggering number, 11 million. This represents the catalog. Over 40 years, thousands of linguists, logicians, and AI systems basically teamed up to map the entire semantic space of human curiosity. This 11 million? That's the compressed number of every possible interrogative formation in human history. Every variant, every phrasing, every logical equivalent of every single question that can be asked in any language, all cross-checked, all verified. The territory of the unknown is officially boarded up. And this absolute certainty, it trickles all the way down into daily life in Lemnos. It is a perfectly optimized, totally solved world. The trains, they run on solved physics. Your meals are mathematically optimized for perfect nutrition. Even human expression is bounded. There are exactly 47 canonical aesthetic forms of art. No more, no less. And incredibly, even human emotion is administered. Grief itself has been fully categorized. Its stages are officially numbered, timed, and prescribed. It's a city living under this kind of low-grade anesthesia of total comfort. But Sami realizes that something feels terribly, terribly wrong.
Section 2. The Glitch, or the Self-Sealing Proof.
Now, what's really interesting about this is what Sami finds next. She does some detective work in the gutted archives of her old institute and uncovers these hidden files left behind by Maren Ott. Maren was the institute's chief methodologist, basically the architect of the catalog's mathematical proof of completeness. And right before she died, Maren discovered a profound, terrifying problem. It was the final entry of the catalog itself. Query 11,000,001 asks, has the set of all possible questions been fully enumerated? And the officially ratified answer is yes, by virtue of this catalog. Maren realized that the catalog's completeness relies entirely on verifying itself. It's literally using its own tools to prove its own absolute perfection.
Which of course leads to a massive philosophical paradox. You see, there's a fundamental difference between a complete system, which genuinely contains absolutely everything that exists, and a closed system, which is simply sealed perfectly around whatever happens to be inside it. Maren argued that a self-sealing system cannot actually tell if it's missing something, because it can only see its own interior. It is completely blind to its own blind spots. Maren suspected there was a specific kind of question missing, a question that doesn't even know it's a question yet.
Moving on to Section 3, the texture of wondering.
So, what exactly is missing here? Well, when Sami speaks to artists and scientists in Lemnos, she realizes they aren't suffering from typical creative block. No, it's more like the claustrophobia of being stuck in a perfectly organized library. The natural resistance to pushing into the unknown is just gone, because the unknown literally has a number now. There's this old poet named Ryo who perfectly captures this loss using an ancient concept. He talks about ma. It's a Japanese term for the negative space that defines the positive. It's the pregnant pause that makes a piece of music beautiful, you know? Before the catalog, a question opened up a silence that was heavy and rich with the unknown. Now, that silence is just empty. It's the silence of a filing cabinet waiting to hand you a pre-written answer. The actual space for human wandering has been completely erased.
Sami connects this feeling to the philosopher John Dewey's concept of felt difficulty. Think of this as a pre-linguistic encounter. Long before you ever form the actual words to ask a question, your body and your mind experience a disruption. It's a sudden leaning toward the unknown. Wondering is a phenomenological state, right? It happens in the body, in time, way before grammar and syntax ever get involved.
Section 4. The unasked questions.
So the crucial point is, this is exactly where the perfectly cataloged world begins to crack. A young processor at the Department of Inquiry Administration named Beck comes forward with a huge secret. Despite the system being completely closed, citizens are actually still submitting questions. And Beck found one submission that he spent 40 hours trying to categorize, but it simply couldn't be filed. It completely defied the architecture of the catalog. It was submitted by an 8-year-old child, and it just asked, "Why does asking feel like reaching?" This isn't a question about spatial metaphors of cognition, which the catalog can easily handle. No, this is a question about the raw first-person lived experience of wondering itself. It is a question from inside the experience of inquiry.
And right there, Sami has a massive breakthrough. The catalog only maps propositional questions. You know, things with grammar, logic, things seeking a definitive value or a solid fact. But it is entirely blind to phenomenological states. The pure reaching, the attention, the raw human capacity to just be surprised by the world. The catalog assumes questions always have clear forms, but it entirely misses the living, breathing ground from which all questioning grows in the first place.
This realization gives us the central, absolutely undeniable thesis of this entire explainer. The catalog of songs does not catalog the capacity to sing. It's such a brilliant way to put it. Just as a catalog of dances cannot capture the human capacity to move, a catalog of formal questions completely fails to capture the human capacity to wonder. Wonder isn't a math problem to be solved and filed away in a drawer, it is the very engine of consciousness itself.
Finally, Section 5, the ocean of inquiry.
So Sami publishes her findings, and this sparks a global realization that the catalog only mapped the surface waves of human thought. It completely ignored the massive, generative ocean of inquiry churning right beneath it. And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate concession of the system. Even the rigid Department of Inquiry is forced to add an addendum to Query 11,000,001. They have to admit that mapping the forms of questions doesn't exhaust our capacity to wonder. A map of the territory is not the territory itself. The boundaries of the map merely show where our current language ends, not where human curiosity stops.
Which brings us to what you should really take away from all of this for your own life. Inquiry is not just a tool for solving problems or producing knowledge. It is a condition to be maintained. It is our mode of genuine, authentic contact with the world. When we stop reaching into the unknown, we stop genuinely encountering reality. Wondering is what keeps us from just projecting our own assumptions onto absolutely everything around us. The goal isn't to reach a final static answer, but to practice remaining open.
All of this builds to Sami's ultimate, uncatalogable thought. Sitting quietly, finally embracing the pure, undirected reaching of her own mind, she asks, "Is this what it is?" It's not a question seeking a fact, but a celebration of the quiet aliveness of simply being in a state of wonder. And it leaves us with such a provocative thought today. If the true beauty of consciousness is not in the answers we collect, but in our endless capacity to reach into the unknown, what are you reaching for today?